Litvach. My name is Shia Ostrov. Firstly, I want to express my Hakoras Hatov to Mrs. Adler and all those who work together with her in her Avodas HaKodesh for this very wonderful organization. For giving me the opportunity to share some of my thoughts and experiences in this very crucial area of Shidduchim and relationships, and even the areas of marriage and parents and children. In that area of our lives where lives are brought together. And actually, I was supposed to be here tonight, but Baruch Hashem, I'm on my way to Eretz Yisrael for a simcha. Bez Hashem, we will have a bris. My son is making a bris on Monday. Bez Hashem, and so thought the best way that I would still have the opportunity of sharing my thoughts with you is through this video. Let me begin with some thoughts on the Parsha. I think there were some very crucial areas of every Parsha brings crucial messages to us. The Pasuk says, "Vayigdal Moshe, vayetze el Ochiv, vayira b'savlosam." And Moshe went out, and he went out to his brothers. He went out to Am Yisrael, and he saw their suffering. And Rashi tells us that how did he see their suffering? He said he focused his eyes and his heart. And when he focused his eyes and his heart, he gave himself over to the pain and suffering of Am Yisrael. And the Rebbeinu Shalom was aware, was cognizant, of course, of Moshe Rabbeinu's Yitzia, Vayetze, how a man living in a palace, living with all of life's comforts, royalty, protected from all of life's challenges, leaves it all and goes out to the gas, goes out to the street, because he sees the pain and suffering of his children. He gives up everything for his brothers. And Rebbeinu Shalom says to him, he says, if you're willing to give up the comfort of your palace and be mishtatef, to be noseh all in the tsar of Am Yisrael, then I'm going to leave my palace. I'm going to leave my palace in the Shemayim, and I'm going to come down and speak to you, directly to you. So when a parent loves a child, and the child is hurt in mortal danger, and someone comes along to help the child, is there anything that this parent won't do for this person who helped the child that he loves? So Rebbeinu Shalom told Moshe Rabbeinu, my children are hurt. You left the palace to help them, and I'll leave my palace to bring you to the heights that no person ever reached before, or ever will reach. What did Moshe Rabbeinu see? He saw the back-breaking labor. He saw the killings, the humiliation. And these are sufferings that Am Yisrael has seen in every door. Every door has been, Chazal tells us there's a part of Mitzrayim in every door. In this door, there's another kind of suffering. There's a suffering that I don't believe any door has ever seen before. It's true, we see the illness, we see the suffering, but we never saw the pain of people searching endlessly for their zivugim, the pain experienced by parents who bring up children, who wait for the moment that they can escort them to the chuppah. That which was our schus, that was our Yerusha for every door. For some reason, for this door, something has occurred, something has, a new kind of pain, a new kind of suffering has emerged. And we feel so helpless to deal with it. There's a part in each of us that's a Moshe Rabbeinu that wants to help, but we just don't know how. Some will help by trying to push things along. Some will help by a kind word. But we see singles, we see parents suffering year after year, so many, and we don't know how. Just a few days ago, a young woman came to me and said, I don't know what to do. I've been seeing somebody for a few months. I want to get engaged. About 4 years ago, I came so close to engagement to a wonderful person, and I got scared, and I started to have palpitations, and I started to worry about all kinds of things, and I couldn't do it, and I walked away, and I told myself that I did the right thing. It must have been something wrong. But I see now that the same thing is happening again. I met a young man, and he's a wonderful person. He's a Baal Midas, is everything I wanted. As they say, on paper, it's 100%. But inside of me, I don't know what's happening. I'm just so filled with trepidation. I'm so filled with fears. And I'm not a frightened person. I'm a teacher. I'm a professional. I function well in every area of my life. And yet I see it's happening again. And I know if it happens again and there's no real reason, I don't know what I'm going to do. Just a few days ago, I had a young man who was just 3 or 4 days away from his wedding. He called me. I had seen him a couple of times. He said, I don't know what to do. I'm getting married in a couple of days, and she's a wonderful girl. But for some reason, I don't feel I like her. But I did like her. We went out for a couple of months, and she is a wonderful. For some reason now, it just kind of all went dead in me. And I'm asking myself, should I go to this? Should I go to my own chuppah? I waited all these years for my chuppah. My parents are waiting. My Bobby, my Sadie, everybody is waiting. And I feel I don't want to go to my own chuppah. It feels like it's the last day of my life. We see every single day, we see this over and over again. We see fine children who we've invested our lives in. We've invested our neshamas in raising them. Which door in our history has raised such intelligent Balei Midos, B'nai Torah, B'nos Torah? And yet, over and over again, we see the same pattern. We have people who have been dating for 10, 15 years. People who have been dating 30, 40, 50, 60 dates. Had one man came to me just a few days ago. He said, I dated about 40 girls. I finally found the right girl until she looked to the side. And when she looked to the side, she reminded me of somebody that I once knew and didn't like. So I asked him, well, how do you know that was legitimate? He said, it wasn't legitimate. She's a fine girl. But once I had it in my head, I didn't know what to do with it. It was driving me crazy. Every time I looked at her now, it reminds me of this person that I didn't like. So I asked him, what'd you do? He says, I dropped it. You know, in our lives, we look around and we see that we have so many areas that protect us. We have surveillance cameras, and we have high-tech medical procedures, and we have everything to keep us out of harm's way. And never in our long history has the enemy, whether it's illness or it's a Molech, anti-Semitism, never in a long history has the enemy been unable to do any real damage to us on the outside, and yet he's been able to destroy so many lives on the inside. And we wonder, where's it coming from? Why is it happening? Why is this door different than any other door? I recently, if we look back to other doors, I recently came across an amusing story which I put in the book of how dating, or not dating, we didn't know dating in previous doors, how it was so natural. I saw a story about a young girl who asked her grandmother, she said, Bubby Chana, she said, how did you and Zadie meet? So Bubby Chana told her granddaughter, she says, I'll tell you what, she said, I'll tell you. She says, one Erev Shabbos, my father, that's your elder Zadie, went to the market to buy fish, to buy chicken. And he came back, and his hands were full of packages. So he said to me, he said, Chanala, he said, today in the market, he says, I bought you a special gift. She said, what was it? She said, I bought you a chassan. She said, bought me a chassan? She said, yes. So she said, I was only 6 years old at the time. It seems that a shadchan came over to him in the market and said, Mr. So-and-so, I understand that you have a 6-year-old girl. He says, I have somebody here also in the market, a 6-year-old boy. I want to introduce you to each other. And the shadchan introduced them. And they made a deal. And some 10 years, 15 years from now, whatever it is, these two young people would marry. They would meet and they would marry. So Chanala started looking through the packages feverishly. So father said, Chanala, what are you looking for? She says, I'm looking for my chassan. He brought me a chassan, I'm looking for him. That was the purity, the innocence that for over 3,000 years, that's how it went. How do we understand the difference? What's happened? We can go back to the Navi Yeshaya. And the Navi Yeshaya says, HaRishoyim came Nigrash. The Rishoyim live in turbulent waters. They live in a turbulent sea. The Rishoyim never really have any kind of rest. They're always chaotic. We've always lived around Goyim. We've always lived within the societies of Esav, but we've never really let them take hold into our own pneumius. And never before has the nigrash, has the turbulence of Esav become a part of who we are. And we can hear it. We can hear it in the rings of our cell phones. We can hear it in the nivelper on the street. We can hear it in the talk show, the violence of the talk shows that we listen to, political violence. It's become a part of our landscape. And when this becomes the part of our landscape, we lose something of who we are. You know, Chazal says that Abrim Yom Lefnei Leda, the Baskol is able to tell us who is Zivik for who. So we have to be able to hear that Baskol when we're ready to get married, when we meet our Zivik. But we can't hear that Baskol anymore because we're turbulent inside. Imagine you went to the Kosel. You went to the Kosel and you traveled 7,000 miles. Maybe you had some names of people you want to daven for. You haven't been there for a long while. And you got next to the Kosel and maybe you put your face next to the wall, next to the stone, and you're ready to daven. And all of a sudden somebody comes next to you and is listening to rap music. And you say, please, can you please shut that rap music? It's not, I can't. So the person says, oh, don't mind. She said, I don't mind your praying, and you shouldn't mind my music. You say, we don't understand. I can't daven with that music. Rebbe Shalom doesn't connect to us when that music is in our heads. See, what I want you to understand is that music, or it's not music, it's a cacophony. It's the sounds of the nigrash. It's the sounds of the chaos that in our dating, in our relationship building, in our marriages, have snuck in and become a part of us. And we don't even know it's there. We can't, because it's become so much a part of the ebb and flow of our lives. We don't realize it. It's not that we're going to the coastal and we demand, please, if you don't leave, then I'm leaving. No, it's become a part of us. That wild cell phone sound that wakes up everybody within a 5-mile radius has become part of us. We expect it. We don't realize what it's doing to us. But what it does is it throws us off balance. We don't know how to hear the baskol. We don't know how to feel the sensitivity. I had a girl came to me a few weeks ago with a wonderful young man, a sweet young man, who's been pursuing her for months. And he was a very good-looking young man. But she says, I can't go any further. I don't know why. I don't feel attracted to him. We went over all the things. She was looking for something which was absurd. He was a very fine-looking young man. Handsome, I would even say. She was looking for something which was not mitzvahistic. Her whole she'ifa in life had become taken over by this rash, by this chaos that we see. So what do we do? This has really become the enemy of our door. This is really the enemy that when we see people going out over and over again, date after date, year after year, Rahman al-Assan, this is the impact. So if we look at the Bali Musa, Rabbi Rucham Levovitz. Rabbi Rucham Levovitz, he tells us in the Sanhedrin says, we all know this pasuk, we all know this. Kol Yisrael yeshem chilat l'olam haba. So he says, what's olam haba? A chelik in olam haba? He said, a chelik in olam haba is Menuchas Hanefesh. He says, Menuchas Hanefesh is the Iki Yesod of life. Why? Because Menuchas Hanefesh is Punkt verkehrt, is the exact opposite of the Rash of Esav, of the chaos of the Gas. Not only that, he says on Shabbos, by Mincha, we say Menuchas Ava, Nedova, the Shalom, the Shalva. He says that Ava, why does Menuchas Hanefesh, what does that have to do with Ava? He said because a person in Menuchas Hanefesh is Oev the Beria. And a person who doesn't have Menuchas Hanefesh is Sona the Beria. A person without Menuchas Hanefesh cannot have a kesher with himself, herself, with the person they're dating, with the person they're married to, with the Rabbanu Shalom. Menuchas Hanefesh becomes the center of all we are. Everything that enables us to be close to Rabbanu Shalom, to those we care for, to building our homes. It's only when we're in that garin, we're in that center, that Chazal calls Menuchas Hanefesh. What does it do? How does it work? Well, I've done a lot of work on this and a number of books that I've written which will be available to you both after my talk and also they're available in the stores. But Menuchas Hanefesh is a state of mind that creates an awareness that connects us to the Rabbanu Shalom, that says that we're connected to the Rabbanu Shalom. I remember once I was sitting in the mountains Erev Shabbos, waiting for Shabbos to come, and I was looking at the trees and looking at the mountains, and all of a sudden the whole pargod of existence lifted, and I realized that it's the Eibishter that is behind every leaf, every blade of grass. We all know that, but to experience it is very different. And really that's behind Menuchas Hanefesh. It's an awareness that every moment of our lives the Eibishter is giving us lives. That the Eibishter is that the pulse that we experience is kept going by the Eibishter. That the cells in our body are being fed by the Eibishter. But more than that, that when someone says, I can't get engaged because I feel too tense, because he reminds me of somebody, or my stomach is churning, that person doesn't feel they have Bechira. That person feels that they are helpless to deal with this anxiety. What Menuchas Hanefesh does is it enables you to experience the Bechira that Hashem gives us. It tells us, Shaya, I know who you are. You may feel you're helpless right now, but you know the Eibishter knows who you are. He knows how you got here. He knows what you're experiencing. He knows what he wants you to become. And in this very moment, you have the ability to quiet your anxieties. You have the ability to find the koach and the serenity and to find the kavanas and to find everything you need to walk down that chuppah. You have the ability to shut off those thought patterns that are making you think that this person is somebody else. Menuchas Hanefesh gives you the ability to realize the kochos that Rabbanu Shalom gives you. So you have Bechira, because no one is ever without Bechira. That's what we learned from Menuchas Hanefesh. A husband came to me, a Chassid Shaman. He and his wife were fighting. And they've been married a good number of years. And after the first session, I gave him a copy of my book. And I told him, I want you to go home, and I want you and your wife to sit down and read the book 15 minutes a day. He came in last week and he said to me, I always said that Rabbanu Shalom made me an angry person. I really believe that. I didn't really feel that I had any choice. My father sometimes got angry, and I had that also. I got angry at work. But after reading with my wife, I discovered two things. Number one, I discovered a wonderful chavrusa, because my wife and I are reading every day. But I also discovered that I'm really not an angry person. The Rosh Hashanah gives me the ability not to be an angry person. I learned how to calm myself down. There are many such stories like this, far too many to tell you tonight. But what I want to leave you with is the concept that the Rosh Hashanah knows our suffering, but he also knows that before the Makkah there was a refuah. And from my perspective, what I've learned, the refuah is Menuchas and Hanefesh. And in my writings, while this is just a very short presentation, I've endeavored to capture my ideas and present them to you through CDs and through the books, the Menucha principle in marriage, the Menuchas principle in Shidduchim, dating and engagement, which I brought here tonight, which will be available in the stores, I believe in a week or so. And through training groups that we're developing and support groups. So it's more than a belief. It's an experience that I have every day where people learn to cultivate their Menuchas and Hanefesh, and through cultivating it, are able to become chasanim and kalas and build wonderful families together. I can't tell you how many calls I've received a day after the chuppah, a week, a month later, realizing how all of their anxieties and fears were really illusions, and how grateful they were that they had learned this, and how grateful I am that Hashem, the Rosh Hashanah, gave me the ability to discover what Chazal has always known. And Bez Hashem, over the years, I believe that many of us will work together through groups and support groups, through other writings, to make sure that no one is left behind. Every Bas Yisrael, every Ben Torah has a right, has a Yerusha to find the Zivig, to find that person that the Bas Kol announced before they were born. And Bez Hashem, we should all share many simchas together. A good vach.